Hey, I'm StillUnknown, and today I hopped in a call with BlackySpeakz, who is a staple in the rap commentary community. With over 1 million subscribers on his YouTube, we talk about many interesting things like his upcoming singles, his new single, his face reveal, and just a whole bunch of interesting things. So I hope you guys enjoy. Blacky, what's up,
Hey,
man? What's up, man?
hey, what's going on with you, man? How you doing, bro?
It's been good. It's been good. How about you? You doing good?
I'm doing really good, man. Thank you for having me on here.
All right. No, thank you for you know, having you on here because like this is like really big for me. You've been like an inspiration for me for like a while now for my channel and stuff like that. So it's just crazy how this all like started, just off of like one Instagram live and now you're on my channel, which is just it's just crazy. It's just really, really crazy. So how did you get started on like YouTube?
So how I got started on YouTube is I used to actually like years ago, I used to run a Logic related fan page on Twitter.
Mhm.
And from there, I ended up creating a like a channel connected to that Twitter account. And then that eventually led me to starting my main channel.
Okay. So was that like a steady growth or was it like did you just blow up one day?
So I started that account like back in 2013. And shout out to anyone who's watching this who actually remembers that account. It was like one of the biggest Logic fan pages on Twitter. But I started that account like back in 2013 because I love Logic. He's like been one of the most like inspirational people like from an outside perspective to me, right? And so I started that account in 2013, and slowly over time I started gaining traction because I was just sharing my love, all the love that I had for Logic on there, and a lot of his fans were just flooding to that account, and like it was a consistent thing that over time it grew. I think I had like in the end I had like 30 or 40,000 followers in the end, like before I
Mm,
quit. So it was like slowly over time, and eventually it just kind of grew into like something that was like a thing. And even Logic acknowledged me when I had that account as well, which is
yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, that's actually that's so that interview that you did with him must have been like really big for you, right?
Yes, yes. I mean, wow, that interview was crazy because I actually met Logic in 2020 for the first time, like during the
Mhm.
like right before the pandemic kicked off, right? And I met him because he actually wanted to meet me. Now,
Mm,
the story is that Logic had his people like just reach out to me, and he wanted to speak to me. And I
mhm,
didn't really know why he wanted to speak to me. And come to find out, we had like a phone call. We talked on the phone, spoke on the phone, me and Logic. And come to find out, the only reason why he wanted to speak to me is because he found out how big of a fan I was of him. Like the fact that I grew up on his music, and the fact that I loved him so much. And I was so inspired by
mm,
him and so influenced by not only his music, but how he was as a person. So literally, he wanted to speak to me, and he hopped with me on a phone call because he just
mm,
wanted to show love. And then after that, what ended up happening is I was gonna do an interview with Logic, you know, during that time during the but pandemic happened, and then
mhm,
they stopped the flights, and then I couldn't go and do the interview, and then it stalled for a couple of years, and then eventually what happened is like last year, in the beginning of last year, I shot my shot. Like I tried to get the interview, like I reached out to his people, and he was more than happy to do it. And then eventually I sat down with him. So which was
mm.
crazy, crazy
That's
inspiring.
that's that's actually really crazy because it's like kind of like the same thing that's going on like right now,
Yes,
but
I'm
like
honored.
instead
I'm
in this
honored.
situation, you're Logic and I'm you, like
That's
which is
that's that's
crazy.
crazy, man. I'm honored, brother. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah. So he must have been a big inspiration for your music then, right?
I wouldn't say necessarily like the music, but like Logic is someone who just life, man. Because I discovered Logic in 2011, you know, and luckily for me, I grew up with a father in my life. Luckily for me, right? A lot of people didn't grow up with fathers. A lot of my friends too, like most of my friends, their fathers were not in their life, which is insane. I was like the odd one out, who had like a father in my household. So I'm very blessed to say that. But the thing with Logic is like it was like I used to always dream about having like a big brother in my life, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember when I discovered Logic, he kind of became that for me. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So for Logic, it's not necessarily just the music, it's like life, it's everything that I do. And in a
Mhm.
lot of ways too, you know, I wouldn't really have my channel if it wasn't for Logic, because it started with that Twitter account, me being a fan of him, and then it's transitioned into like my channel. So a lot of this stuff, like the music too, is connected to logic.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, definitely. Not musically speaking, but
Hmm.
on a level where like a grander scheme perspective where it's like everything that I've done has been in a lot of ways connected to him. So which is why I'm so grateful to, to have met him and have, had those conversations with him. So
Yeah, that's just super crazy. Super crazy. So, how did you get into making music and like what was that process? Because like
mm,
you're
mm,
a music like a content creator, but like
mm,
we never really seen you like in the studio actually making music until
that's
now, obviously.
yeah, yeah, that's a very, very good question. So I shared this on this one video that I dropped, but the making a confession video. I don't know if you've seen it, for anyone
Yeah, I
who's
seen
seen
it.
it, where I was like essentially announcing the fact that I was going to be, releasing music. So how I got into music is years ago, a long time ago, I started writing poems, right?
Hmm.
And so me writing those poems, and the reason why I started writing poems is that I'm very like expressive with my words, right? And I wanted to find like an outlet to express those thoughts in my head that I had. And so I got into making poems, and then I had like a period where I recorded some music like a long time ago, right? And then after that, I stopped. And then
Yeah.
for like a couple of years on and off, I was like writing music. For like the last couple of years, I've been writing music, but it's been like on and off, and not like a thing where I actually put my mind towards it. I was doing it as a thing where it wasn't even a hobby at that point. It was just like from time to time I'm writing. From time to time I'm writing. This month I'm writing a little bit. I'm not doing it for a couple of weeks, and then I'm going back to it again.
Hmm.
But in last year, actually, what ended up happening is I was going through a very particular time in my life and making some changes in my life. And so I had a lot of things in my heart and a lot of things in my mind. And I had this inclination, this feeling to just go into the studio, because up until that point, up until last year, and I do have songs recorded, but I never truly had the chance. I never truly had the confidence to go into the studio and actually, on a serious note, like on a serious tip, record music. Like I'm seriously in the studio now. So I did it last year, and then I I loved it. Like I felt something inside of my body, like wow, this is crazy. Like the fact that I didn't have the confidence to do this is crazy, because I've been writing, this
Hmm.
music for like years. And so eventually what that led to is I stayed in the studio and I stayed writing. And ever since last year, I've been just writing and recording. So that's how I really got into making music.
Mm. That's 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 crazy. Like it's really crazy how like music can change like someone's like whole viewpoint on like life in general. Cause like music is like so important when it comes to certain people and me in general. Cause like it's just like it can really like hit you in certain ways. Like especially if you find the right artist, it really can affect you. And even making it, like you said, like it even might have even helped you through some of your problems. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, man. Like just putting, yeah, music is, I like to say that music is like it's a, it's really a spiritual experience. And I'm
Yeah.
talking from the consumer and the creator, because there's something that happens when someone creates music, and there's something that happens when someone consumes music. And I think
Hmm.
that's very like connected to something that we can't really see. We can only feel
Yeah.
it in our hearts. And music is such an influential like force.
Hmm. Yeah,
So,
it really
I
is.
look at it as like an art of expression that could literally lead to changing lives, because it's changed my
Mhm.
life, and I'm sure it's changed your life, like you said. And it's so, yeah, yeah, definitely. Music is very spiritual. And I think also too, not to get ahead of myself, but which is also why too, I talk a lot about the influence of, certain topics in like, for example, like hip hop and rap culture, right? I've been very vocal about that. And
Mhm.
you kind of see how certain things are affecting people in real life. And sometimes it's even leading to people dying. And, so because music is such a powerful thing.
Yeah.
And they say that the life and death is in the tongue. So
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Um, but I just wanted to ask, how do you feel about like how everybody felt about your song? Like, do you think most of it was positive? Do you think most of it was negative? Do you think it overseeded your expectations? Do you think it like how do you feel about that?
Very, very good question. And so I'm gonna have to say the first thing I do want to say is one thing I kind of went into like this release with a very specific mindset, and
Hmm.
it was through a couple things. First of all, it was actually through something Logic told me, right? Because when I met Logic, like after we did that interview, I actually played him my music, and and he told me something which completely changed my mind on like got me prepared for this moment, which is today, right? Like after I put my music out. And one of the things Logic told me is he said, once you put it out, it's not yours anymore, right? And
Yeah.
he also told me, and I'm paraphrasing, something along the lines of he put it in perfect, he's put it so beautifully. I can't even recall exactly how he put it, but essentially he said that the response the response to like you putting this out will hurt, right? It will hurt you in some ways because people will have a lot of things to say, but how long you let it hurt is up to you. You understand what I'm saying? So when Logic told me that, it put me in a place of, oh wow, I see what he's saying now because he's someone who's obviously gone through like his fair share of like, you know, I guess like negativity coming his way, but Logic is very loved. But when he said that, when he told me that, that kind of got me to that put me in a place where like today I've seen some of the negative things, of course. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm on the internet, you know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
But most importantly of all, I do know that the thing with music is as long as music as long as music evokes an emotion, whether it's positive or negative, it doesn't really matter. And so I accomplished first of all, another thing too before I get there is and I heard this from Rick Rubin, right? One of the greatest producers in hip hop. He said that art is a success in its completion. So it's not even about the response. It's about the fact that I completed something and then
Hmm.
eventually I put something out. And that's the completion phase. You create something that you put it out. So I say that to say I'm happy with the fact that I created something and then I put it out. And I'm also happy with the fact that first of all, I'm happy with it. I validated it before I put it out. And I'm also happy like it's a bonus that there's a lot of people out there who liked it and it inspired a lot of people. So although there's been some negative feedback, I don't really like to focus on that because I look at it as at the end of the day, where attention goes, energy flows. And that's one
Yeah.
thing I know about where you put your focus, that's all your mind is gonna see. So I made a conscious decision to just say, you know what, I'm gonna focus on the positive feedback that I've gotten. And so ever since I did that, and ever since I realized that this music that I made is a success in its completion, like it
Yeah.
completely changed my mind, which is also why I feel so unaffected by it because I thought that my mind I was like, oh wow, if people start saying something about this is my story, I'm gonna feel some type of way. And like
Hmm.
Logic said, it's gonna hurt. It did hurt for a little bit of time, but eventually I snapped out of it because of what he told me. So
Yeah. So you look at the cup more half full than half empty type
you're
way of
smart.
thinking. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a
I get
great
you.
analogy because that applies to everything in life. I mean, when I
Yeah.
started my channel, right, I had like, by the way, I've improved so much throughout the last couple of years. So I understand that. Like when I started, I sounded like a robot and
Hmm.
damn near like an AI and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
even then, when I started, like there was a lot of negativity. Like
Yeah.
people thought that I was like an industry plant channel because I remember how my videos were getting very like recommended in the recommended section. They were popping up in everybody's recommended section, right? And I was seeing a lot of these things, but I kept going despite it all. And then eventually, like fast forward to 2024, like it ain't about the results per se, but it's about the fact that I had the persistence and I had the courage and drive and enough to push myself enough to the point where I'm here today. So it doesn't I think a lot of times too, we look at the response as a negative thing. And I think the response is just coming from the lens that it's coming from, which is everybody has an opinion. So whether it's music or whether it's the work that I'm doing, right?
Hmm.
Everybody's gonna have something to say. But at the end of the day, as long as you're happy with what you're doing and where you're where you're putting out, I think that's really all that matters. So
Okay, so another question I have is so I was going through the lyrics of your song and I saw that you almost lost your health and I was wondering how was that experience?
that's a good question. So I don't want to get into the specifics of what exactly it was, but sometime back, actually in 2014 and 2015, actually, I was going through like a health crisis, and I was hospitalized, and I was in the hospital for a little while, and that line was kind of inspired by it was inspired by how low I felt in that moment, because I vividly remember being in the hospital bed and not feeling like things were gonna end because I was going through a lot of pain and a lot of stuff with specifically with my health, and my family did a great job at being there for me. That's why I say on that song, 2014 I almost lost my health. Shout out my pops, on God he helped. So that's
Yeah.
a tribute to my dad, because my dad was like, I gotta give a shout out to him because like he was so consistent during that time. Like he did what any father would do, and he was really there, and he took care of me during that time when I needed someone to take care of me. So that's what that line is specifically talking about. It was just a time in my life that for sure defined the next phase of my life, and has till this day. I look back on that time and I remember that things weren't so good, but it made me stronger and it made me smarter, and most importantly of all, it made me harder mentally.
Hmm. So it seems like a really big thing to you is family. Like that seems like it's very big about you. And it
Sure,
seems like you have a really good support system around you when it
sure.
comes to your family. So yeah, that's really good. That's really good. So in that time, I'm assuming that you were very like depressed or certain stuff like you're very down, stuff like that. How did that feel? Like going through that, just going through that in general.
Yeah, that was actually the first time in my life where I was struggling with suicidal thoughts. Like that time was the worst time of my life, hands down. And again, like the first time I struggled with suicidal thoughts, it was then, you know, and I never ever saw myself ever getting to a point where I was even thinking about that, because I used to always think, oh wow, that's for other people, that's not for me. And then eventually, when
Mm,
I found myself in a place where, you know, I'm getting some flashbacks right now, but when I found myself in a place where I was feeling those things and I was feeling that, you know, agony inside of me, it definitely gave me a different perspective of life, because you never really know where you're going to find yourself. And this is why I'm so big on never, when someone is struggling and someone is going through something, I'm very big on, I do that even in the way I cover artists. No matter how much I hate anyone, or I don't hate anyone, but I'm saying no matter how much I don't like someone, I
mhm.
make it an effort like to never step on another man when he's down, because one day you're going to find yourself in that position. It happens to all of us. So definitely, I was not only struggling with suicidal thoughts during that time, but I was also struggling with depression. And that's when my depression, that's how I, was introduced to that, and caused me a lot of pain, mental agony, and a lot of hurt. But ultimately, it taught me the, fragility of life, because life is a up, down, up, down, and you're gonna have
Mhm.
a lot of those things, going on inside your head. And I saw a glimpse into something that a lot of people are living right now, you know, because I'm in a way better place right now, but it wasn't like this. Like it wasn't like this always,
Mhm.
So for sure, man, like suicidal thoughts, depression, and feeling like you're not supposed to be here, really. Like, oh
Yeah.
wow, I don't really see like an end, like a light at the end of the tunnel. So those are some things that I really really like, especially like in my music, I put that at the forefront. I have this song actually too. I think that might be the next release, and I talk about that. I talk about those thoughts that I had, and it's kind of like a suicide prevention song. The song is called Far Away, and I think I might make that my next release. But yeah, for sure, bro, definitely. I was going through a lot of things during that time.
So, what got you out of that like mindset? Like, what really like got you out of that mindset? Was it your family who got you out of that mindset? Did you ever go to therapy? Did like how did you like get out of that slump that you had?
Mm, that's very, very good. Well, first of all, I will say like I I kind of have like a little I had like a little small period last year where some of those things came back. Because as you might know, you're a viewer of mine. Did you notice how last year there was periods where I was like gone?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that was very noticeable. And I was getting a lot of messages of people like who were worried and what's going on with you, what happened, and had certain experiences in my life where it kind of brought me to like a dark, I guess like phase, right? And it was very reminiscent of what I was going through a couple of years ago. And what I realized, especially like last year, I realized one of the things that I did, and I think people in general have to do is first of all, you have to do everything in your power to get yourself out of that place, and that's physically, mentally, and spiritually. And a lot of those things, one of the things that I had to do was I had to ask myself a lot of hard questions. You know, why am I actually here? What is my purpose? What am I supposed to do in this life? And what are the things that matter to me more than staying in this place? Because it's really easy to stay in a dark place. It's really easy actually. Of course it's hard, but I'm saying it's also easy
Mhm.
because when you are in that place, you can come up with a lot of excuses as to why you shouldn't get yourself out of that place, you
Yeah.
know? And I really sympathize with anyone who is in that place because I've been there, but it's, you know, asking yourself a lot of hard questions and of course getting some professional help as well. And having like a support system around you is huge, man. Honestly, like I was just watching this video on YouTube and they were saying how something about how a lot of people like loneliness kills now. That's what
Mhm.
a lot of studies they're coming out with a lot of studies now, and they're saying having those feelings of loneliness can actually kill you, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that's because that love is medicine. So having that love and having that close connection to people in your life is actually going to help you reignite something inside of you that's then going to give you the strength to get yourself out of that place. But it's
Mhm.
also the hard thing is a lot of people don't have that. A lot of people don't have people around them, like maybe their parents died or they might have moved to a new city and they're completely all on their own. So what do you do in a situation like that? Well, I say if you are in that situation, then you actually have to be strong enough for yourself to get yourself out of that place. And the beautiful thing about life is that once you take yourself out of that place, if you can do it alone one time, that's proof that you can do it again and you can do it again and you can do it again. And also
Mhm.
the most beautiful thing is that once you get out of that place and you're feeling better, what's going to happen is magically, it always happens, you start meeting people who are in your life, like people who've been in that same exact predicament. And that's how sometimes you actually build your support system. You build your support system by you get yourself out of something that you didn't think you could get yourself out of. And then since life is a spiritual experience, I think we're all souls who are connected to each other for various reasons. Those people
Mhm.
start to pop up in your life. That always happens. But I think it starts with asking yourself the hard questions, of course, getting help professionally. That's what you need. And also, too, having being brave enough to try to pull yourself out of that place.
Yeah. Yeah. A definitely having like a lot of like people that love you definitely helps. Cause like I know me personally, like if I didn't have the family that I had now, I know like I could never like just how like it's just crazy how much they can really help. Like if you're ever really in that type of place.
Absolutely, bro. 1,000%.
Yeah.
100%.
So anyways, so after the song, and you also mentioned another song. So is there ever going to be an album releasing?
That's a good question. So as for an album, I'm I guess I'm kind of working on an album right now, but I don't want to say it because I feel like I haven't fully immersed myself in it.
Hmm.
I feel like an album for me is something that's probably not going to come right now. It's going to be after I've gained more experience as a musician, and it's going to be after I've gained even more experiences just in my life. That's what I think about when it comes to albums. I feel like from all the artists that I see, they've they like Kendrick was talking about this one interview, and he was saying how essentially, his writing process is, and I'm just paraphrasing, but he was saying how his music is inspired by him being out in the world. And
Yeah.
so and so I feel like I need to be more out in the world, even more than I am right now, for me to actually be able to craft something like an album that would be interesting and that would be a reflection of not only myself in the moment, but the things that I've seen in that moment. So not right now, definitely, but I have enough material to the point where I could put all these songs together and I could call it an album. But it wouldn't really, I don't think it would really sound like an album, is what I'm saying at this very moment. So right
Yeah.
now, personally for me, I just I want to do singles. And I think a
Hmm.
lot of these songs that I have, they're a good representation of the place that I am right now and that I've been. So that's kind of what I'm going to focus on. Not an album, but more so individual drops.
Yeah, that's what I noticed with a lot of music artists. They always say that their most recent album is their best album. And people always say because it's to get more streams. But I think personally, I think it's because how their mindset is at the time. Because whatever they're putting into the music, I think that's their mindset at the time. Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's definitely very, very
great
important.
assessment, bro.
So you have built a brand over these, ever since you've been doing YouTube with the obviously with the picture and all of that. So like how would you say for smaller content creators to build that type of brand?
That's a very, very good question. Well, first of all, I think the biggest thing about building your brand online, specifically in the niche that I'm in, is you have to know exactly what it is that you offer.
Mhm.
What is your unique value proposition? That's what they call it in business. So a value proposition is essentially what you can offer, right?
Yeah.
And for me, I have certain strengths, you know. As a person, I'm a very reflective person. I'm very good with expressing myself. I'm very good at communicating my thoughts and putting them into, putting them out with people and in front of a microphone as well. And so I know where my strength lies. So my strength and my brand are intertwined. So the biggest thing I would say is you have to look at yourself as a person. Like who are you as a person on an
Mhm.
intrinsic level, right? Who are you inherently? How did you grow up? What are some of the things that you have that that other people, most people don't have, right? And for me, with how I grew up and with how I think and some of the things that I've seen, I know that I come from a very unique background and I know that I see the world in a very different way. So that's a part of the brand. The brand is essentially who are you? And once you figure out who you are, after that, you can build your platform on who you are and the interests that you have. So that's the biggest thing. And then also too, what what is it that it kind of goes back to value again, but what is it that you're going to bring to the table that nobody in that specific field is going to be able to beat?
Mhm.
So the hardest part about building a brand is thinking about how to package all that, because it's the packaging that I think matters. It's not just you doing something, it's how you do it, and also too, what do people think about when they think about your brand? So when people hear BlackySpeakz, I know that there's a lot of things that people think about, right? And that's it. The fact that people have a lot of ideas about that when they hear BlackySpeakz, that's the brand. So whether it's positive or negative, because everything is subjective, right? Some people might say they might hear that and they might think some negative things, but That's not what it's about. It's about the fact that I have a name, right? I have something that I've accumulated, and eventually, with the mix of you knowing who you are and knowing what you can offer, that comes together, and you build your brand.
Yeah, yeah. So like from like just because you've been doing YouTube for a long time, like a pretty a pretty good amount of time. So like is there like certain things like about even social media in general? Because like you said, you were doing social media before YouTube. Is there any like tips or like tricks you picked up along the way that helped you to succeed even more?
That's a good question. Well, I wouldn't really put it in terms of like tips and tricks, because usually
Mhm.
when people say that they have they have some kind of shortcut in their mind, and I'm not saying that's what you were thinking, but
Mhm.
usually like when people think tips and tricks, they're thinking about the small things like, you know, how can I get a viral video, or how can I get more followers on social media? And
Mhm.
I think for you to actually get those things, I think it's actually not smart to focus on those things. It's kind of like counterintuitive. You go into making a YouTube video and you start a YouTube channel and you're thinking, how can I get a viral video? Well, that's going to strip away all the other unique ideas you would have otherwise had because you're so focused on a viral video. So I think that's a good question though, but more specifically, I would say it kind of comes back to what I said earlier, because I think if you focus on certain things like what kind of value can you offer in the space that you're trying to go into, automatically you're not really going to need any tips and tricks, right? Because it's a mindset thing. It's you're doing it for the right reasons, and then the understanding you're going to have of what you're doing, it's going to be so much easier to figure things out and acquire all the knowledge that you need in order to succeed, because you're going into it with a very very good mindset. Because most people are actually they're after those tips and tricks, but the small percentage of people who succeed, notice how they never talk about tips and tricks. They talk about things that have nothing to do with the specific small things that a lot of the people who want to make it are so focused on. So I think it kind of comes back to what I said earlier with, what is your unique value proposition. And also too, I do want to say, of course, there are some specifics like, you know, what kind of channel do you actually have? Like, what is it that you're going to talk about? How many people are making that type of content? And that's a really big one, because if you're trying to go into like a space that's really crowded, it's going to be very hard for you to set yourself apart, right? And when I started, there weren't a lot of people doing what I'm doing, not a lot of people at all. But now there's a lot of people with hip hop trying to, do hip hop content. A lot of people now, right? So if I started today, I would have maybe not been where I'm at right now, because I would have been overshadowed by all the content that's out there. So that's another thing too. You have to kind of analyze and study the field and specific niche that you're trying to go into. And it's in you studying that you're going to try to you're going to be able to mentally place yourself in there. And then already from the get go, you already know, okay, this is the value proposition that I have. And so once you mentally place yourself there and you've analyzed that niche, it's going to be easy for you to navigate because you already know why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah. So going back to the brand thing, I just wanted to ask, like, how did you even come up like with your brand? Like, how did you come up with the name? You probably mentioned this before, but
Mm,
how did you come up with the name? How did you even come up with the picture?
mm.
Like how did that all come about?
So as for the name, BlackySpeakz stands for a black guy who speaks into a microphone.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I feel like I kind of figured that, but like I didn't know if there was more to it.
no, 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 you're smart, because most people haven't figured that out. Like most people have not. They don't know that that's what it is. And I had a couple names before. I think I had like essentially first I wanted to do black and then HE speaks. And
Oh.
then I was like, black he speaks. That sounds a little not right. And then I was like, I felt like I when I came up with it, like I felt like it had like such a ring to it, like Blacky, right? And then speaks. I was like
Mhm.
black because I was thinking, okay, who am I? But I'm a black guy who's gonna speak into a microphone. And then I was like, okay, black e. and then I came up with this Speakz because I was like speaking to a microphone. And then as for the photo, the iconic photo, well, that's my friend actually. Shout out to my brother and friend Tristan. He's an animator. He's one of the biggest animators in hip hop, right? He's done music videos for everybody, everyone from how does he work with Ski Mask? I'm not sure, but he's done one with XXXTentacion, God rest
Oh,
his soul.
he's the didn't he do one with Juice World?
Yeah, Juice World
He
too.
did the
Yeah,
righteous. Yeah. Oh, so he did it. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. So
That's cool.
yeah. So
Oh, that's
that's
great.
my friend. I've known him for like a long time. Like that's my brother and friend, and he made that animation for me, and that was back in 2018. Because before that, I had my profile picture for like a year and a half or something like that was just it was like a background, like a gray background, and then it said BlackySpeakz. Like that's all I had, and then I remember I hit him up and then he made one for me after I sent him like a picture of myself. And then a lot of people thought that that was like logic for some reason. I don't know why, but it looks like a
Yeah,
white guy though. It does look like a
I
white guy.
know. It does honestly, it doesn't really look like you anymore though, now that you have like your hair kind of
Exactly. I had
yeah.
very short hair back then too, and I even remember the pic that I sent him. Not gonna show that, but I was like, I took like a selfie, and then I was like looking like this in the camera, and then like he came up with like the
Mhm.
form and like the structure, and then we were going back and forth, and then eventually I wanted and then also too the gray and red theme that actually came from. So when my channel was blowing up,
Mhm.
I have like friends who had like been doing YouTube, and like, do you know who Corpse is?
Corpse. Um,
Corp, he's a musician. He used
yeah,
to have
yeah,
a
yeah. Actually, yeah, he did. Yeah.
yeah. So that's my friend, and he had like a YouTube channel. He was successful for like years, and when I started, he gave me a lot of tips about kind of like the branding aspect of my channel, and so that's how I came up with the gray and red theme. That's because of my friend Corpse. He helped me just focus on the branding aspect because he had been doing YouTube for like years, so he was dropping a lot of gems on me when I started. Appreciate you, bro, if you're listening to this. But yeah, so that's how I came up with the branding, and then from there I just stuck with it, and now we're here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. Like even me, I'm still trying to find my own brand personally. Yeah.
If you need any help, you could always hit me up, brother.
So you have over like 1 million subscribers on YouTube, and congratulations because you did hit that what last year or the year before?
2021 actually, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So how do you think you would describe your viewers?
That's a good question. You're thinking in terms of like who they are?
Yeah, who they are as people.
That's very, very good. Well, instead of describing them, I like to describe myself, and in return, you're gonna know who they are. Well, so first of all, I'm a very conscious human being, right? So I really pay attention to things, right? I like to also look at things from an outside perspective and not necessarily be attached to any of the biases that I have. Because as a human being, you have a lot of biases about certain things. And for me, as a creator, I actually make a mental effort to take myself out of those biases. It's really, really hard. Like as someone who reports on stories,
Mhm.
we have certain things that we may feel that are not necessarily true, and they're coming from you having like a clouded judgment of things. And so I say that to say I'm someone who I can take myself out of the story and I can focus on the lessons that come from the story in question. And so I think a lot of the people who watch me, they're very similar in the sense that, first of all, they're very open-minded. Like anyone who supports me, I want to say they're ultra open-minded. And also too, they have an understanding of the fact that people are different. Because one thing I realize and about just life in general is that every human being has a different set of experiences that shape them, and that then contributes to how they see things. So my viewers, they're not only very open-minded, but they also have very like kind hearts and very like kind souls, and they have beautiful spirits. because that's one thing I always get told. I get told by people that I have a very like beautiful spirit, which is one of the biggest compliments I get. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I was, raised with a lot of love around me. Luckily, right? A lot of people don't have that, so I'm very blessed in that sense. So yeah, I'm open minded. I from what I'm hearing, right, I do have a beautiful spirit, and I see the world in a I see the things in the world that I see myself. And personally, I think I'm a pretty optimistic human being. And so I've built a very optimistic community around me.
Hmm. Hmm. So, as you were saying about like the lessons from different stories that you've like covered, like what's like the biggest lessons you picked up from doing this for over what, 8 years now?
Almost seven, going on 7.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so biggest, you said biggest lessons from
Yeah.
doing what I'm doing?
Yeah.
That's a good question. Well, I want to say one of the lessons is that it kind of almost goes back to what I said earlier about how people are different, you know, due to the fact that as human beings, we have a different set of experiences that then kind of shape how we view things. Like I've
Mm-hmm.
covered a lot of different artists, I've covered a lot of different stories from different people from all walks of life. And the lesson is that everybody has their own story, right? If I cover someone that I may not be a fan of, I realize that they have a story, right? And I realize that they come from a particular background that I may not understand. They might have certain family values that I may not understand. They might come from a certain culture that I may not understand. And I think the beauty in what I do is that I get to speak about and discuss people, whether it's good, whether it's bad. Because even the stories that come from like negative stories and people we might consider, oh, that's an artist who, and of course I call out people, right? I might say, oh, this is someone who they're always in the headlines for something negative. Well, there's a lesson in that, and it's that this person they're carrying themselves in a way where that's all they know, because that's the place that they're at mentally. And so I like to highlight these things, not because I'm pointing my finger and saying I'm better, because I have my flaws as well. But I like to point those things out just so we as human beings we can actually see the lessons and see the faults and see the flaws in another fellow human being that I might be talking about in the moment. And I try to do that in a way where I'm not making. I might have, I've had certain moments where I'm speaking a certain way, but at the end of the day, it's never from a place where I'm pointing the finger, right? So the lesson is that it's that people are inherently different. People are intrinsically different. And at the end of the day, as well, I do a very good job at, I feel like, you can agree or disagree, but I do a pretty good job at, for someone who reports in the field that I'm in, I feel like I do a very good job at not judging people too harshly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yes, that you
Yeah,
said yes, right?
I think you definitely do because like let's take Little Xan for example. Like I know you made videos on him in the past, but and you still like it was negative because he was doing certain things, but you did an interview with him and it seems like he's doing better and stuff like that. So it seems like you're very open-minded towards those types of people, even if they were that
Absolutely.
type of thing at one point.
Absolutely too. And that comes back to, the fact that we're all different and we all have different experiences. And, you got to allow people to grow. Like when
Mhm.
someone shows a level of growth, to me, that's really big because in this life, there's a lot of people who are not even alive to show any growth. So when someone shows signs of growth and they've became something that they weren't before from a positive perspective, I look at that as a positive, as a good thing. And I look at that as a net positive for society. Because why should we not praise someone who's doing good things? Why should we not praise someone who's growing in front of us and becoming, like Lil Xan, like he's really becoming something that's, I think is like very honorable. Like he's changed his ways and he was addicted and now he's not addicted and now he's changed his ways and He seems like he has more love for himself and the people around him. So I see that as a win. And I said it before, but I'll say it again. I like to see the things in the world that I see in myself. So I see a lot of good things in myself, and I try to project that out to the world as much as I can. Of course, I have my flaws, but at the end of the day, I feel like with the responsibility that I hold and with the power of the voice that I hold, I think I'm doing a really good job at doing just that.
Mhm, mhm, mhm. So, another thing that I was wondering is if has you making videos like on certain topics ever got you called out by artists or ever got you caught up in beef or any type of situation like that?
That's very interesting. So, publicly, no. I've never had anyone who's publicly called me out, but I've had certain experiences where, and I don't want to say the artist or who it is, but I've had certain experiences where I've made certain videos on artists and sometimes they're mad at me. But with the way that I am, I'm in a way where someone might come at me with a knife and my words are so powerful to the point where I'm going to be able to make them put that knife down and even and have a truce with them. So I've had a couple of experiences where people have came in me and they've said, you said this, you're shaping this narrative, you're pushing this. And I explained to them where I was coming from because a lot of times too, people don't really know who you are and they don't really know if you have an agenda because sometimes for certain artists they might feel like the world is against them, and then here does this guy with hundreds of thousands or millions of subscribers, he's making a video talking about you. Who the hell is this guy? I've never heard about him. Why did he make a video on me that got 80,000 views and it got 1,000 comments? They're saying all these things about me. Did someone pay him to say this? You get what I'm saying? So people might not know where you're coming from, but at the end of the day, I look at it as I understand where you're coming from and I'm just doing my job, and I apologize if anything that I said might have came across a certain way, and I hope we can leave it here. And every single
Yeah,
time it's been okay, respect to you. Obviously, I can see that you're someone who you really care about what you do, and sometimes they even circle back. I've had people circle back like, "Hey, I did more research on you. I understand that you don't have this kind of platform where you're trying to tear people down. I seen you dropped another video on me and you gave me credit now when I was doing good things. Wow, thank you. That really means a lot. And now I see the kind of platform that you have. So never publicly because I never allow it to go publicly because I don't want
mm,
my name to be attached to anything that's negative. So
mm,
I
yeah,
try to stop it. I've had a couple experiences like that, but I try to stop it before it goes anywhere because that's not the kind of person I am. And that's not how I was really raised. I was not raised to instigate anything. I was not raised to, you know, start things with people. That's not really who I am. I like to
yeah.
keep the peace because I think the world is a better place in that way.
So, not this year, but last year, you have revealed your face, and I'm looking at you now, and it's just, it's been crazy, especially since most of your career, you've never really like had a face. You've always had the photo in your background. So I was wondering, like, did it ever change? Like, have you ever met someone in person? Like, do people come up to you all the time? Like, how's the deal with that?
No, that's impossible because I spend most of my time inside. So
Oh, okay.
done. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But I do actually. I do work a lot, and part of that is like you're in the lab. But I haven't really. So first of all, I've had one experience, and I was actually. It was like I think it was like 2 weeks after I did my face reveal. I was out in the club with my friends, right? And
Mhm,
and we're in the club, we're just dancing to like Drake actually, right? And
mhm.
I seen this young man, he might even be watching this right now. His name was Vincent. Shout out to you, Vincent. So I seen this young man, I seen someone like looking at me at the corner of my eye. And I was seeing that happen, and then I was like, that can't be it. It can't be possible. Like this is impossible. And then what happened is he came closer and closer. He was like looking at me like this. He came closer and closer. And then he was like, yo, he looked at me. I was like, hey, what's up? And he was like, I recognize you. I was like, ain't no way, ain't no way. And then I was like, and then we came to, he told me, he was like, BlackySpeakz. I was like, yes. And then I dapped him up and then we had a conversation and he couldn't believe it. He was like so mind blown, honestly. And aside from that experiences, I was actually traveling like, it was like a month after I did a face reveal. I was in Amsterdam and I was walking in the streets of Amsterdam. And I think this young man recognized me, but it was so weird because he was like looking at me. He was like walking with me and he was like looking at me like this, right? And at one point, he tried to stop me, but I didn't stop because he didn't address me. So I felt like it would have been a little strange to like stop for someone who's not really addressing you. So that was like the second experience that I had, but I still can't guarantee that that's what happened. But that's what it looked like. He was could see in the corner of my eye, he was like a young man, and but he never said anything. He never said, so it was just a little strange, you know. But aside,
So
oh yeah, keep going, yeah.
it was only two experiences, only two.
Really one,
Okay, so really just that only one.
really one. Also too, like the fact is like the reason why I haven't gotten a lot of that is because I don't put myself out there like that, you
Hmm.
know. So a lot of people who watch me, they might know who I am, but I'm not really out here, you know. My
Yeah.
friends are not like on YouTube, and like I don't have like a circle where like everybody like knows who I am. And because when you put yourself out there in a certain way, you're gonna have more of that. And I've actually made a conscious decision to like not do that because I don't, as much as did a face reveal, like I don't really want to be out there like that. I don't want the whole world to know who I am and everybody to recognize me. I'm not really in it for that, you know. I'm in it really for the work that I'm doing.
So obviously, ever since the facial reveal, like how was the process like before that? Like, why did you decide to do it? Was it because like you wanted to upgrade your brand? Was it because like you wanted to do like you wanted to do more things that was outside of you just being in your office recording? Like, what was like how did that go?
That's a very good question. Well, I mean, you know, I was on the internet for how still am, but like up until this point, damn near 7 years, and I got to a point where I didn't really see the upside of not having putting myself out there like this, you know, and I looked at it as oh, sorry, I looked at it as they're not enough there aren't enough reasons for me to stay in this way, right?
Hmm.
So the the upside was more than the downside because the one of the downsides of this is the people who've been watching you like yourself, you're not going to be able to connect with them, like
Yeah.
really connect with them on a human to human level. And
Hmm.
one of the things that was important to me is that number one, like the people who are might be inspired by me and who've been watching me for a long time, like yourself, like you know that I'm
Hmm.
actually here in the flesh. So when you
Yeah.
think about me, you don't just think about a voice, right? And I looked at it as I'm actually doing a disservice to humanity by not putting myself out there like that, because this is not
Hmm.
just about me. This is about the minds that I'm speaking to, like yourself, right? You have to know that I'm here. I might be here in the through like audio form, but I looked at it as I have to be here in the flesh, in with my presence as well. And part of that came with doing what I did, which was a face reveal. And on top of that, I have a lot of. Have you noticed how ever since I did a face reveal, I've been even more vocal,
Yeah.
right? And
Hmm.
the reason why I felt like I could never truly be that vocal, I could, but I didn't really. I think it's like an inherent thing, like think something inside of you where I felt like if I'm gonna speak on certain things and I'm gonna show up a certain way, I actually have to be brave enough to put myself out there so people can hold me accountable for my words. You
Hmm.
understand what I'm saying? So that was also really important to me. And also too, like at a certain point too, like life works in a way where you have to change. You can't things are not gonna be the same forever. And
Yeah.
this was like a reminder to myself that I'm not gonna be able to stay the same forever. You're not
Hmm.
going to be able to do what you're doing forever in the way that you're doing it. And I want to
Hmm.
use this as an opportunity to, celebrate my success, celebrate my community, and most importantly of all, show up for people in the flesh so they know that I do actually exist and I am a human being. And I do want you to hold me accountable for my words if that's what you want to do. And I want to show up as a man. I want to show up in this world with my presence. And I think that's really, really important. And because I'm like proud of who I am, right? I'm very proud of who I am. I come from a very why is it doing that? Sorry. Okay. I'm very proud of who I am, and I'm very proud of where I come from, and I'm very proud of my background. So one of the most important things for me was just doing it so I can show myself that those things are in fact true, and it's not something that I'm just saying just to say it.
Mhm.
Yep.
So so another question is why didn't you do it for a while? Was it just because of privacy? Were you scared of people coming up to you? Yeah.
Well, I didn't do it before because I was content with doing things the way I was doing them. And I looked at it as I don't know why my camera is doing that. Anyone who's watching this, my
Yeah.
camera is like you see, it's kind of a little weird right now, which is annoying, but I can't focus on that. It is what it is. So what I was gonna say is, can you ask me the question again?
Like why didn't you do the face reveal earlier
Okay,
or
that's
why
I
now basically?
why now basically. That's a very good question. So just like I said, I was just content with doing things the way I did them, you know,
Mhm.
and then eventually I got to a point where I was like, you know what? I'm not really happy with doing things this way now. You know what I mean? And it's not just about because my content hasn't changed that much. If you think about it, like especially like right now, especially like the last month, I've barely been popping up on camera. So it's not
Mhm.
necessarily about the content in itself, but it's about, how I want to represent myself. Do I want to represent myself in this world as just a voice on the internet, which that's cool and all, right? I did it for a long time, but also too, I truly felt like, and I really believe this, I felt like I was doing the world a disservice by not showing up in the flesh.
Yeah.
And, because like, again, I really love like myself. I love where I come from and I love my background. And I love the man that I not only am, but the man that I'm becoming. And I wanted people to I wanted my viewers, the people who watch me and support me, I wanted them to get an opportunity to see me grow, right? Because they haven't seen me grow. Like you guys haven't, like you haven't really seen me truly grow, but now you're seeing me grow in front of you. And
Yeah.
that was also very important to me. So I just got to a point where I was like, you know what? This is where I am right now, but I'm not happy with being here. I want things to change. And so this is one of the things that I'm going to eventually have to do. And so I did it on August 6th on that Doja Cat video when I just popped up.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you for coming on here. It's really like I really appreciate it. Like I really really appreciate this. This is like big for me personally since I've been watching you for so long. And like just the support you've even shown me even off camera is just crazy. So like I just want to really thank you for that.
I appreciate you, Rigo. Thank you for having me on here, my brother. And
Mhm.
thank you for being the great young man that you are, bro. Because in a lot of ways, you remind me of myself in so many ways, and you're living proof that all the work that I've done, all the great work that I've done, has manifested itself in a positive influence. Like you're someone who you watch me all the time. You might have even, I'm sure you've adopted a lot of the ideas and things that I've shared, which I'm happy because I'm only gonna share things that are gonna be good for your young mind. So I want to say I appreciate you for supporting me, brother. And this is my way of giving back to my community. This is a way for me to give back to the youth, like I always say that I want to do. I want to help the youth and I want to help the people who may not be as, like you don't have a big platform, obviously,
Mhm.
right? You're still working, like you're still in the trenches, you're working.
Yep.
And I'm proud of you for working, bro. And I'm really proud of, the young man that you are, because I can see that you come from a good family and you have a lot of great things inside of you, bro. So, you're someone who I like to like I want to see more people like you in this world, brother. So I want to
Mhm.
say you say that I've inspired you, but you inspired me, bro. So, and I'm honored to actually have this conversation with you. Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you a lot, man. Thank you.
Of course, I appreciate you, brother.